Hello and welcome to our pilot in Berlin. In this presentation, we will introduce our work on fostering active mobility at the EUREF campus in Berlin. The focus is not just on one intervention, but on a set of pilot activities designed to build competence, strengthen the community, and support sustainable commuting habits. The overall idea is to understand existing barriers, use the strong sustainability context of the EUREF campus, and test different practical measures, from gamification to infrastructure and training, to make cycling and active mobility more accessible and attractive for both students and employees. Our pilot area is the EUREF campus, which serves as a pilot district for climate-neutral, resource-efficient and smart city. The site covers 5.5 hectares and brings together around 7,000 employees and 150 students. It is located quite centrally along the Ringbahn, with excellent access to public transport, including long-distance and regional trains, suburban trains and buses. The metro is slightly further away, but still easily accessible. Let me briefly introduce the mobility situation in our pilot area. We have two main data sources. First, long-term data collected by the research institute Mobility to Grid, which conducted traffic counts and on-site surveys at the campus entrances between 2017 and 2024. The most recent survey was carried out in early September 2024. This data shows a clear trend. The share of car commuters has been decreasing over the years, while cycling and walking have slightly increased. Public transport use has remained relatively stable. However, there is still room for improvement. Around 1 in 5 employees still commutes by car, at least partially. Within our project, we conducted a more detailed survey among employees and students. The results you can find here on this slide. This confirms that public transport plays a central role for both groups. For students in particular, it is a main mode of transport, possibly also because the cost of public transport is included in their semester fee. Car commuting is more common among employees, while bicycle use is relatively similar between the two groups. We also observed behavioral differences. Most students are unimodal and rarely change their commuting mode. Employees, however, are more flexible and often switch modes depending on external factors such as the weather, for example, cycling more in good weather. Looking at the first mile to public transport, students mostly walk, whereas employees are more mixed in their behavior. About 10% use a bicycle and 8% use a car to reach the station. Because the methodology and timing of the two surveys differ, the results are not directly comparable. However, the overall trend is consistent. Based on these findings, our goal is clear. We want to maintain and further promote cycling. This means improving conditions for those who already cycle and creating incentives for employees and students who do not yet consider cycling as an option. Our overall goal is to maintain and further improve the existing modal split in favor of sustainable transport at the EUREF campus. In practice, this means reducing car-based commuting by making cycling and walking more attractive and more feasible in everyday life. We deliberately included participatory approaches like workshops and feedback formats to better understand everyday problems from the user's perspective. For students, the focus is especially on establishing long-term habits. Many students are at a life stage where mobility routines are still forming, so promoting cycling, raising awareness, and rewarding sustainable behavior can have long-lasting effects. For employees, the goals are similar, but with a stronger emphasis on shifting existing routines, especially away from car use and towards more sustainable options. At the same time, we aim to maintain sustainable commuting patterns and prevent a future shift to car dependency. To understand why we focus so much on cycling, it's important to look at the barriers and potentials. Among students, 63% have never tried to cycle to campus, and only 36% actually own a bicycle. At the same time, around 60% live within 10 kilometers and 32% even within 5 kilometers, which is a very reasonable cycling distance, with a median distance of about 10 kilometers. The main barriers students report are weather, not owning a bike, long distance, missing shower facilities, and feeling unsafe due to traffic and infrastructure. About 1/3 either cannot cycle or does not feel safe cycling in Berlin traffic. For employees, the picture is slightly different. 57% have never tried to cycle to campus, but almost all employees are physically able to cycle and only about 20% feel unsafe in traffic. The median commuting distance is higher, at around 14.5 kilometers, but still 1/3 live within 10 kilometers and 11% even within 5 kilometers, which shows there is a real potential. The main barriers here are long distance, weather, and infrastructure quality. So overall, cycling has significant untapped potential at the campus, but also very real practical and perceived barriers. Our pilot activities were designed to address exactly these points. Based on the interests, needs, and identified potential, we organized a mix of activities. These activities are mainly targeted at students, but some also address both students and employees. Our approach is designed to maintain the existing positive modal split, support behavior change, and long-term habit formation. Therefore, we combine different types of measures: gamification, information, incentivization, and improvements in infrastructure. By addressing these different aspects, we aim not only to encourage initial changes in behavior, but also to help sustain them over time.
The commuting challenge was one of our core pilot activities. It was designed as a campus wide, app based initiative targeting both the students and the employees. The main idea was to make everyday commuting behavior more sustainable. By combining automatic tracking with rewards and gamification elements, participants could see how they move, how sustainable their choices are, and how they compare over time and with others. The goal was twofold. First, to improve the modal split in favor of more sustainable modes, and second, to strengthen the awareness of the impact of our everyday mobility choice, which often is taken for granted. In practical terms, the challenge worked as follows. It was open to both the students and the employees and covered everyday commuting to and from the campus. Participants used Changes Fit app to track their trips. Based on the detected mode of transport, sustainable trips were rewarded with more points and contributed to the ranking and challenges. The key element was the transparency. Both the individual progress and the collected campus wide progress were visualized through dashboards. This allowed the participants not only to reflect on their own behavior, but also to see how their action contributed to a broader shared impact. Now let's look at the participation and the feedback. While the participation was voluntary, we still saw engagement from different groups of commuting profile. In terms of the impact, the most important result is that the majority of the participants reported being more active during the challenge period, mainly by walking and cycling more. This shows that the challenge worked as an activation and an awareness tool. At the same time, acceptance of the format was very high, with many participants saying they would participate again. Overall, the results indicate a clear short term shift towards more active mobility, especially towards walking and cycling, combined with the strong user experience and acceptance. To reflect on the feedback, the quote here gives an impression on how the commuting challenge was perceived by the participants. Many found it eye opening to actually see their own mobility behavior visualized, and at the same time motivating to realize that a lot of their trips were already low emission. What also comes through very clearly is the role of gamification, rewards, and the social comparison. The competition with the colleagues and across the campus made participation fun and engaging, and that's exactly the kind of dynamic we were aiming for from this format.
This pilot aimed to promote cycling at the REF campus also by supporting students and employees with practical skills and infrastructure. With that goal, the bicycle repair station and workshop were designed as both an educational intervention and a small infrastructure measure. The workshop took place on October 7, 2025, with 7 employees of this campus. During the session, participants learned how to pump up their bikes and perform basic maintenance and small repairs. The goal was not only to teach practical repair skills, but also to increase confidence in cycling and reduce everyday barriers, such as not knowing how to fix minor issues on bike. In the longer term, the initiative also aims to establish a visible symbol of bicycle-friendly campus and encourage cycling as a preferred mode of transport. 7 participants took part in the bicycle repair workshop survey. According to the survey, their main motivation was to gain practical knowledge about bicycle maintenance, become more confident in performing small repairs themselves, and reduce reliance on bike shops. Many participants also cycle regularly, often commuting by bike several times per week. The workshop was extremely well received, with all participants rating it 5 out of 5. After the session, everyone reported increased confidence in handling basic repairs. Most felt somewhat more confident, while some felt significantly more confident. Participants also expressed strong interest in repeating the workshop once or twice per year. Some even reported increased motivation to cycle more often. However, common barriers to cycling remain, including bad weather, long distances, and limited cycling infrastructure. Several suggestions for future improvement were also made, such as creating a self-service repair station on campus and offering additional tent workshops. As a next step, we are planning the installation of a permanent bike repair station on the campus, which will act as a visible symbol of a bicycle-friendly campus environment. We observe an important difference between students and employees using bikes. Around 1/3 of students either cannot cycle or do not feel safe cycling in Berlin traffic. In contrast, employees generally feel safer. Only about 20% report feeling unsafe in traffic. To address this, we offered cycling courses for students at 2 different levels, depending on their experience and confidence. The goal is to build competence and increase confidence in everyday traffic situations. We also saw a strong potential among students in terms of distance. About 1/3 live less than 5 kilometers from campus and 60% live less than 10 kilometers away, which is very suitable for cycling distance. The median distance is around 10 kilometers. The cycling courses also serve as a first step toward participation in our commuting challenge. Overall, this approach combines 3 elements to support behavior change and habit formation: building competence and confidence, providing practical information, for example, on how to get a bike, and creating opportunities to apply the skills in everyday commuting. We offered a cycling course for beginners designed for people who either cannot cycle or do not feel confident cycling in Berlin traffic. The lessons took place at the former airport area as well as the local youth traffic school. The course was held in September and October 2025. 10 people initially expressed interest, 3 participated actively. Among them, 2 had not learned how to cycle before, and 1 participant felt very insecure. By the end of the course, all participants were able to ride a bicycle. However, most of them still require additional training and support before cycling independently in street traffic. 1 participant already felt ready to cycle on the streets when occupied. We observed that participation and motivation decreased as the weather became colder and rainier. Based on this experience, we suggest strengthening the cooperation with the youth traffic school and offering this course regularly, for example, once in autumn and once in spring each year, to provide continuous opportunities for skill development. This course was designed for students who already know how to cycle or feel generally confident, but who are new to Berlin. Even if someone can ride a bike, arriving in a new city or even a new country can create uncertainty about local cycling infrastructure, traffic rules, and regulations. The main aim of the tour was to reduce these barriers early in students' time in Berlin and to encourage them to use the bicycle from the beginning. All participants were already cyclists in their hometowns. However, more than half had not cycled in Berlin before the tour, and 2/3 had cycled only rarely or never in the city. Most had used the bicycle mainly for leisure purposes. Before the course, about half already felt confident cycling in Berlin. The tour helped students better understand local traffic rules and the cycling infrastructure, which reduced fear and uncertainty. The course was evaluated as excellent by the participants. After the course, all participants reported feeling confident cycling in Berlin. Half of them already felt confident beforehand, and the other half gained confidence through the course. 2 students started cycling more frequently afterwards. The main reasons for not cycling to university were not having a bike, longer distance, and concerns about the cycling infrastructure. Overall, the course successfully supported confidence building and helped students overcome initial uncertainties about cycling in Berlin. In addition to the courses, we focused on providing information and building a cycling community among students. We use social media posts to share relevant information and raise awareness. We also created a WhatsApp group to connect interested students. However, we noticed that such a group requires continuous moderation and active management to remain engaging and effective. At the EUREF Summerfest 2025, we use a booth-based outreach format to engage the campus community in topics around sustainable mobility. The setup combined information with visualized research results and hands-on experiences like cargo bike and e-bike testing. We reached around 40 visitors, many of them students, and received very positive feedback, especially on the commuting data and the opportunity to test alternative vehicles. While the planned mobility rally was not used, the booth itself proved effective as a low threshold entry point for conversations about sustainable commuting. Overall, the activity contributed to our 2 main goals, enhancing the modal split towards more sustainable transport and strengthening awareness of everyday mobility choices. To conclude, we implemented a comprehensive set of pilot activities aimed at promoting sustainable commuting and active mobility among both students and employees at the EUREF campus. What's important is that these activities did not just rely on just one approach. Instead, they deliberately combine awareness raising, education and training, practical infrastructure measures, and incentives to address both motivational and structural barriers. The feedback from participants shows clear positive effects, especially in terms of increased confidence, higher motivation to cycle, and strong engagement with sustainable transport options. Taken together, these pilots contribute to maintaining and further improving the modal split, reducing car dependency, and supporting the broader vision of the EUREF campus as a climate-neutral and smart urban district. If you want to get more information about our pilot activities here at the EUREF campus in Berlin, do not hesitate to reach out to our TUB team. You will find the mail address below on this slide. And if you are generally more interested in getting information on our Green Pass project financed by Interreg, do not hesitate to contact our project coordinator, whose telephone number and mail address is there on the slide as well. Thank you very much for your attention, and goodbye.